what do you think is a big hesitation for a lot of grapplers out there, from beginner to advanced? There's advanced guys out there that don't do takedowns, that will admit it. They'll admit and say, I don't do them, don't need to do them, don't want to do them, or there sometimes there's just a hesitation to learn them. What do you think that hesitation is?
Well, every martial art kind of has their own culture behind it. And part of the culture of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which admittedly makes it difficult to apply takedowns in randori in our sparring sessions, is that we tend to pack the mat during sparring, where if you've got like 4 meters squared, you've got a different group in every 4 meters squared, right? So if all of those people were starting from the standing position, it would be a melee constantly, and there would be concussions and people getting knocked back and forth, and it's just really difficult to train them both at the same time. So typically that's why you'll have like a takedown focus where you'll get lineup going in to do a bunch of takedowns. Or if it's a small class, maybe we can start standing if it's only 2 groups that are a few meters apart and you're not too worried about it. But because of that culture, it makes it difficult to do more realistic starting from the feet grappling scenarios in a typical class. So that's kind of the excuse that jiu-jitsu guys like to use why they don't do it every class. But the problem is, again, with the culture, is that we start from that excuse of, well, there's just too many people on the mat to practice takedowns all the time. And that's sort of, we stretch that and shoehorn that into why we don't ever train takedowns. And then we're actually building a hole into our own game where we're super efficient if we're on our back or we give somebody inside control or passing their guard. But if they stop us from getting it to the ground, you see it in the UFC a lot now. Is like people have this argument now, like jiu-jitsu is not useful anymore because people just stand up. It's like they've actually trained specifically how to not get taken down, which of course, if you can't take somebody down, you can't really do jiu-jitsu on them. It's the same thing as if you can't get up, you can't really do striking. So it's just, they have found that hole and exploited it. So I think the hesitancy has, it's understandable because of the system of teaching that we do in most gyms, but it is definitely detrimental when it becomes a multidisciplinary act, whether it's MMA or self-defense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I like the explanation with the culture. I've heard a lot of different explanations, and that was one of the, one that's unique, but makes really good sense to me. Right. So, another thing that I think of when it comes to jiu-jitsu competition is the point structure. In IBJJF, you have 2 points for a takedown, you have 4 points for a mount. And I always think, well, which one's easier? I think going from side control to the mount's easier than doing a takedown on somebody, but yet the point value is not, is not there for the takedown. So it takes a lot of work to take somebody down sometimes and to make it effective.
Vice versa, speaking from the point side of things, as far as game theory is concerned, if I'm a competitor going in to get my first 2 points, I can get 2 points by working a takedown on someone, or I can get the same 2 points by working a sweep. So if I'm better at sweeps and takedowns, and almost everybody that does jiu-jitsu is, because we train them 90% to 10%, to fight for a takedown is almost a waste of time and energy if you're not good at them. So a lot of people just pull guard as fast as they get their grips and work their first sweep. So, I mean, 2 points is 2 points in the game. If you can start 2 points with a sweep, not only do you get your 2 points, but you end up on top, and a lot of times past the guard, where you can get those mount points and stuff.
Yeah, and I think on a reverse strategy of that, I think of Hudger Gracie, and I've seen interviews with him where he's talked about how part of his stand-up game is designed to exhaust the other player, right? To exhaust the other person. And then after he feels they're exhausted, he might still pull guard rather than try to do a takedown. He'll pull guard and then sweep them. And they're already to that point of exhaustion where he's got better control of them. So good strategy in that respect too. What do you think grapplers can do, mentally, to get over that hesitation, and in their practice too, I guess physically too? What can they do to overcome that hesitation?
I think I can only speak to the jiu-jitsu guys because that's a primary base of my knowledge in grappling, but I found that I get the most experience points benefits, the skill acquisition, when I do specifically focus on takedowns for a time. So one thing we did in our club for a while is we would spend like a month focus on a specific thing that was niche, so that we kind of like tripled up on the experience that we would get that we typically wouldn't get any other time of training. And takedowns was one of them. Leg locks was another one. We would spend like a month on these ones that are a small part of the game, but if you didn't know it, it was a giant hole. So people, if they don't know leg locks, they get eaten up. People, if they aren't confident with takedowns, they get smashed on the feet. So I found during those specific portions of focus, I got the most experience. There was a time when I was training under a judo black belt when we would just do 3-minute judo randori, and there was no pulling guard, there was no submissions, it was all takedowns. So that particular time, it really increased my not only ability, but again, confidence of I know what to do. I understand Kazushi, grip fighting, stuff like that, to the point that I'm no longer worried that this guy's going to throw me. I'm more like thinking about how I'm going to throw him. And then the same thing happened when I had a D2 wrestler in our group that was teaching some wrestling takedowns. So it'll give you a couple different looks, but also just that guaranteed focus on something in a situational sense. You're not allowed to pull guard. We're doing wrestling. You're not allowed to pull guard. We're doing judo. There's no submissions. It's just stand them back up, do it again, stand them back up, do it again. And I think that is really the only way to get the confidence necessary to do it in a multidisciplinary act.